Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai v'yevor v'yoholecha, mishkon b'har kodshecha, holech amin u'poel tzedek v'dover emet v'yovavo. This is a psalm attributed to David. O Eternal, who may dwell in your sanctuary, and who may dwell on your holy mountain? He who lives with integrity, who does what is right, and in his heart acknowledges the truth, whose tongue is not given to evil, who has never done harm to anyone, who does not reproach his neighbor. In his eyes, a contemptible person is abhorrent, but he honors those who are in awe, honoring the Lord. He stands by his oaths, even to his own hurt, and never accepts a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things shall stand firm forever. Ose'ele, lo yimot le'olam. Tihi nishmatat tzror b'tzror ha'chaim. May the soul of Phil Bogdanoff, Pinchas ben Abraham Ufroma, be bound up in the bond of eternal life. O Eternal One, send your compassion and comfort to all of those who mourn today, to Lil, his wonderful wife of 65 and a half years, and son Michael and his Laurie, and daughter Ann and her Barry, and grandchildren Abby and Noah and Allie and Matt, and more than just in-laws, little sisters Iris and her Michael, and also Audrey, other relatives and friends who have gathered here to mark and mourn the passing of Philadelphia Phil. O merciful one, our rock and strength, grant courage to those who sorrow for his loss, as we say, Amen. Today we gather this morning to bid farewell to the earthly Phil Bogdanoff. It is mid-month in the secular and the Hebrew calendars as both head towards holidays within 2 weeks. The holiday of Hanukkah marks the rise of rebellion and the ultimate victory of the minority to have rights and freedom even under majority domination. It is a festival that sheds light on injustice and on the equality of all people under the law in all its forms. In the USA parlance, that means all people are created equal with certain inalienable rights. Phil was a student of history, both Jewish and secular. He approached the children he taught, the children he raised, with such values. He greeted everyone with the same good cheer. Perhaps even a bit of the secular season was reflected in Phil, the one we knew, the one we loved. His full head of white hair, pink cheeks, and good nature. In the year 1924 was the first Winter Olympic Games opening in France. Here in Philadelphia, Curtis Institute of Music was established. Sarah Vaughan and Henry Mancini were born. And also on June 9th, Jelly Roll Blues was recorded by Jelly Roll Morton. On that day, Phil Bogdanoff, Pinchas ben Abraham Uthroma, was added to the census by Fanny and Abe. He was the younger brother of Morris and Irv. His parents, as I was told, had a grocery store and then later opened a candy store in Philadelphia. Phil also took time to help his parents as their needs grew in his later years and their later years. And then I was told when he was growing up, he did some toleration in his own home. And how did that happen? Well, he ate his mother's spaghetti with tomato, peas, and carrot sauce. And as the grandchildren called her cookies, Bubby's Rocks. He was not a chicken lover. And he enjoyed chili and pickled beets at meals. In his birth home, Phil became fluent in Mama Lushan and their birth language, Yiddish, and noted that he liked to use Yiddish expressions whenever he could. He participated in a Yiddish club when in Florida, and before that, with the one that met at Temple Sinai for years. Phil may have even helped with the script of Temple Sinai's version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Schnee Weiß und die Sieben kleiner Menschen. Educated in the Philadelphia school system, he graduated Central High and also the College of Jewish Studies, which ultimately became Gratz College. He went off to Temple as an undergraduate. He also did 7 years in the armed forces during World War II as an Army sergeant in the Pacific Campaign. He was among the first American troops to land in Japan near Hiroshima. After his Army stint, he returned to Philadelphia to attend Temple for graduate school. It was at that time that Phil and Lil met. But how? Well, a Yiddish proverb notes, matches are not made in heaven. they are made on earth. Both moms were at the same kosher butcher on a Thursday. And what do you do when you're standing in line? You talk. She had a son. She had a daughter. The shidduch was made. Lil exclaimed to me, he didn't call for 6 months. When he did, Lil was seeing someone else. What did Phil do? Phil pursued her with flowers and candy, taking her to nice and well thought out places. Lil ultimately relented to his charms and the fact that he was an older man. Phil was 28 and she but 18. Lil was at Rutgers. To say that the love of Phil for Lil and Lil for Phil was a mutual admiration society would still be a gross understatement of their love for each other. They first went out in April of 1953 and were married in on June 27th, 1954. Before 100 guests in the Bloom home on Greenwood in Camden. Lil's mom did all the catering. Phil was described by Lil and Pam as a family guy. Lil was his life's love, and the children were his dearest possessions. They and the grandchildren always called his legacy. They needed to be taken care of, and so he did the very best he could on an educator's salary and more. Phil held 2 jobs always. He held positions in the school district of Philadelphia as a teacher and then as an assistant principal at places like Strawberry Mansion and later Benjamin Rush High Schools. He was in the district for 49 years, retiring at 69. When he was a teacher with summers off, he supplemented his income by working at private camps in New Jersey. When he became an administrator, he had to work all 12 months. So he took on teaching and administrative principal responsibilities at various Philadelphia and New Jersey religious schools, such as Melrose Park B'nai Israel, TBS, and of course Shalom. He never was an idle person. However, Michael recollected 2 exceptions to that rule. Humorously, he shared that he was his dad's remote control for the TV after dinner and his garage door opener at 7 a.m. when he left and again at 7 p.m. when he came home. Except for the first year and a half they lived in Philadelphia. In 1956, Cinnaminson was the perfect place for the family. He loved living in his new community. Now I have a note here that was given to me by Lois Goldberg. About 20 years ago, Lil did not want to attend a new action movie that Phil wanted to see. Phil asked Bennett Goldberg, her husband, and Cy Maslow to join him for lunch and the movie. The next week, they went to Philadelphia to the Marie Sandick exhibit at one of the museums, followed by, what else? Lunch. The next week, someone asked to join them for lunch. And that was the beginning of the Romeos. In New Jersey, he helped to establish that group, as you just heard, retired old men eating out. He joked when he and Lil were moving on to Florida that now there was room for me to join the group. I am part of this esteemed gaggle of guys. I am just sorry that Phil is no longer there to kibitz with. Lois continues, I know the three founders of that group are now together, and they're planning interesting changes in heaven. Most definitely. We will miss you, Phil. Lil and Phil were founding members of the synagogue that I was wonderfully associated with for 30 years, Temple Sinai in Cinnamon. The first meeting took place in the Bogdanoff family room. Brother-in-law Marty was president. Lil helped with the books, and Phil helped to establish the religious school program and get it off the ground. They were founding members who had a great influence on the culture and the atmosphere of the shul in Cinnamon. Just on a personal note, I met the Bogdanoffs and Margulies family when I officially came to Temple Sinai in July of '85. But that was not my first encounter with Phil Bogdanoff with 3 O's. Coincidentally, in the late 70s, I was the assistant rabbi at another Temple Sinai at West Oak Lane and Ogons Avenues in Philadelphia and in Dresher, Pennsylvania, with Rabbi Sidney Greenberg. I was part of the Principals Council at the time, along with Melrose B'nai Israel's educator, who had a full head of red hair at the time, just when mine was brown. I never forgot Phil's astute insights and willingness to share pedagogy with a newbie to the profession. So after those 4 years and 25 years or so that they were in Cinnaminson, Phil and dear Lil were always respectful. They were very supportive and gracious to me and my family, something that I will cherish and hold dear forever. Some of Phil's favorite things. He appreciated traveling. He was a great planner, but he was not very good with directions. He went to the movies, as you heard, especially the bargain matinees, and talked and talked and talked about them in depth. He valued the live theater and ballet, especially in New York City. He appreciated varieties of music, spanning Madonna to the classics. He had a natural curiosity about everything. He welcomed everyone. He was a good listener, and he never had a mean thing to say about anyone. William M. Thackeray noted, a good laugh is sunshine in a house. Phil Bogdanoff enjoyed a sense of humor that kept him young as he did, working with the young people, and it entertained his family and friends alike. Being well-read, he knew a lot. People would come to sit around Phil at the Florida pool to soak up his charisma and listen to his wisdom. He liked teaching about Jewish history and sharing this with his family. He definitely made a lasting impression on his grandchildren, who called him Poppy. He always wore shirts with a breast pocket so he could keep his ever-present toothpicks readily available. Though, I remember he had spaces between his teeth. He adored big cars. He enjoyed the ride of a Pontiac Catalina. He drove them around for a few years, and then it was Lil's turn when he bought the newest model. He would save money by not having a clock or a stereo. He would have the standard AM/FM radio, and then he'd have the dealer add an extra speaker on the back windowsill. His goal was to own 20 new cars in his life. How did he do on that bucket list? Pretty close? Okay. He did not understand advertising other people's clothing with their names on it. Adidas, Calvin Klein, Neil Young. Do they wear t-shirts with Michael Bogdanoff on them? My wife Barbara pointed out that Phil was always impeccably dressed and groomed. Was it Phil or Lil that made him look so distinguished? When he was told about how good he looked, he would say that it was in the jeans. I preferred Levi's. Phil was detail-oriented. He put an envelope away 15 years ago about the details of his request for a day such as this. He wrote descriptive notes and cards over the years and saved birthday and anniversary ones and gave them back to Lil in subsequent years. Funny, my wife and I do the same thing. Lil confided that Phil never said no to her if she wanted something. If she went shopping with him and looked at clothes, he would encourage her to get it. She reminded him that looking doesn't mean she wanted it. He did appreciate it when Lil looked nice, even to the very end. Phil said while in the hospital, "Because you look good, it makes me look and feel better." He was no complainer. His cheerful countenance even continued in the rehab at the very end of his allotted span. No one lives forever, Michael mentioned, but no one expected that this would ever happen to the likes of the mensch that was Phil Bogdanoff. Yet, here we are. At this time, I call Barry up, who would like to say a few words. Is much more than a son-in-law.
The kids have some words that I'd like to read. Poppy was a hard worker, which was something he instilled in all of his family, especially his grandchildren. He said we could do anything we wanted in life. Poppy was always positive and always had something nice to say. He had a big heart, and he was filled with love. Poppy and Nunny had a home that was always warm, comfortable, and welcoming for all. We loved how he always cleaned our car, the windows with Windex, to make sure that we had a safe ride when we went back home. Poppy loved to teach and always had stories to tell. We love Poppy and will miss him. He will always be the comeback kid. We know that Poppy is smiling down on us, on each of us, and he is excited to watch over us as life takes us on our journeys. And I'd like to also add that family was the most important thing to Poppy, the dad, Uncle Phil. He loved his entire family. His children, Michael and Ann, their spouses, Lori and me. His grandchildren, Allie and Matt, Abby and Noah. His brothers, Irv and Maury, and his brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws, nieces, nephews, and their children, and their children's children. He especially loved family gatherings, holidays, weddings, anniversaries, and birthdays. He cheered people up. He gave great pep talks. He was a great role model He made you feel like $1,000,000. The only other person like him is the love of his life, his wife of 65 years, Lillian. So now, Lil, Nutty, you will carry on Phil's legacy because that's what he would want.
Let me conclude with this poem that picks up on the theme that Barry just concluded with. It's called He Is Gone. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because Phil lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you miss him, or you can be full of love that you shared. You can turn back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that this mensch is gone, or you can cherish Poppy's memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back. Or you can do what Phil Bogdanoff with 2 O's would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Amen. Please rise. El mole rachamim shochein bamromim hametzeinu nechona al kamfei hashekina b'ma'alot kedoshim utahar umazhirim kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Pinchas ben Abraham Ufroma shehalach leolamo Began Eden Tiyeh Menuchato Ana Bal Rachamim Yaskirehu B'Seiter Kanfecha Leolamim Utzror V'Tzror HaChaim Ed Nishmato Adonai V'Nachlato V'Yanuach V'Shalom Al Mishkavo Nomar Amen. O Eternal One, exalted and full of compassion in the heavens and within our hearts, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Philip Bogdanoff, who has returned to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we implore you, remember all of the menschlichkeit deeds that he did while among us. May the soul of Phil be bound up in the bond of life through the wonderful example of his life as described here today. All of these qualities being emulated by those who survive and love him so. Adonai is now his portion. May Pinchas rest in eternal peace with the Eternal One as we say, Amen. Please be seated. Donations in memory of Phil Bogdanoff may be made to Temple Sinai, 2101 New Albany Road in Cinnaminson, New Jersey. The interment will take place directly following this in Crescent Memorial Park in Pensacola.
have the pallbearers, please? I ask you to rise once more, please.
Yoshe, Beseter Elion, Betzeos, Bidali, Omarli, Mamsudim, Zolati, Elohai, Eltano, Kivigat Silka, Patyakush, Ideber, Bahebrato, Yasafo,
Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to remain seated. Please. Please.
Which